They're probably not going to add any other matches to that event.
Yeah, I don't think they're anything because war games they typically just do 4, right? Because they just do they open with the war games, they have 2 matches in between, and then they close with the war games. That's typically how it goes.
Last year there were 5. They did add one more.
Were they? What was added late last year?
They had Shinsuke versus LA Knight for the United States title. That was a 10-minute match that they added. Braun Breaker and Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser for the Intercontinental. The world title match was Gunther Damian Priest, and then there were the 2 War Games matches.
Okay. What about the year before? Was there 4 or 5?
That year was 5.
All right.
The short match was Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. So it's not like they're putting on fiery matches. They're just one little, small match. Rhea Ripley, Zoe Stark for the women's title, Gunther and Miz for the Intercontinental, and then the 2 War Games matches.
I'm trying to think of what they could add to this. Do you do like a? You do like
there were 5 matches last year too, in 2022.
Okay, well, what could possibly be added to this show that they've actually set up?
Who's the U.S. champion? We do this all the time. Who's the current U.S. champion?
Oh, Dragunov? You can do like a Dragunov open challenge?
Because I don't think he has an open challenge on tonight's show.
Yeah. Is this where you finally do Dragunov and Ciampa? Like you
could just throw it on the show, I guess. Yeah.
I can't think of I don't think they're gonna go back to Priest and Black. I don't know if they do that.
Let me take a quick look. Do they do a Dragunov? Yeah, Dragunov doesn't do another match tonight.
No, he doesn't do an open challenge tonight. I feel like there's a Survivor Series elimination match tonight. I feel like that's gonna be a pretty long match.
So. I wonder if maybe they'll do the tag match, the tag titles, the SmackDown tag titles. But I'm not going to spoil more of tonight's show. But they could do a 6-man, or they could do a tag title match tonight.
They do Wyatt's and MFTs.
Yeah, because they're closing in on that. It could be.
I don't know. Wyatt's might be a AAA tonight.
Are they working? Yeah, I know that match is coming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on. Well, they might be. I guess Survivor Series is tomorrow, so even if they're there tonight, you can show up tomorrow. They can still show up.
Yeah, they've got tonight.
Yeah, maybe they do MFTs and Wyatts in a 6-man tag.
Oh yeah, the AAA match is Pagano and Psycho Clan versus American Made tonight.
No, I understand that, but that doesn't mean the Wyatts can't show up. That's what I'm thinking. I think they might show up to the show tonight, but
they just do a video.
And that's what they've been doing. But even if they show up tonight, that doesn't mean they can't fly into San Diego tomorrow and still do some type of match. I wouldn't do Jade and Chelsea. I think that's a dumb match to book, period, much less throw it on this show with a 2-segment build.
And you've got your women's world title match that already has some people, there are very different ways. People are kind of nervous about that match for the right reasons.
I think if it's anything, it could be Wyatt's against MFTs, or it could be a Dragunov open challenge. I actually like the idea of a Dragunov open challenge.
Yeah, so why not? Put it on a paper.
People can, see what that's all about. And Dragunov's somebody who also can get a really good match out of anybody in a short period of time. And if it's like Ciampa, because that's what they've been building, that's certainly helpful. So yeah, I would probably go with a Dragunov open challenge if they're gonna do anything. They might just keep it at 4.
Listen, this is a very busy War Games match for Aura farming.
Yeah. Both of these War Games matches are gonna get a lot of time, lot of time.
Yeah. So it feels like you could just do that, and it'll be one War Games match to open, and then one of the singles matches, and then the other singles match, and then the other War Games match. You could just do it, bookend the War Games matches.
Well, they're gonna book in the War Games matches. They always book in the War Games matches.
They could, but part of me is maybe John Cena could be the main event. I get it, he couldn't, but it's John Cena. He could do it and make an angle out of John Cena. But that's also if Dominic should beat John Cena in the main event of Survivor Series. Is really what I'm getting at.
I've seen them main eventing's fine with me, but like they ain't doing that. They always book in with the War Games matches. It's
Yeah, it's true.
literally how they lay out this show
I
every
know,
single
I know,
year.
I know. I don't expect it to be any different.
Yeah, they're not
Just
changing
throwing
it
out.
up.
Lawrence is telling us there is a Goop podcast. Well, tell you what, tomorrow I'll drop the Goop chat from our Wednesday show. I think it's tomorrow. It's either tomorrow or Sunday. If you haven't noticed yet, the weekend is like a free for all of clips and stuff that we did or didn't talk about. That's
Yeah.
how we do it. We try to drop 2 or 3 clips from each episode, and then other stuff gets scheduled at different times. There's usually a 7 a.m. Almost every day there's a 7 a.m. drop. Then I try for at least a 2:30, always a 5 o'clock, and then maybe an evening, whether it's late or if it's before the wrestling shows start. There you go. Peek into my world. And then weekends are like a 9:01 and maybe a 7.
Lab Glass saying, how pissed is ESPN going to be after this event?
I don't think they will be. They got all the legacy stars that they want out of this show. They've got John Cena, they've got Punk, they've got Lesnar, they've got even Logan Paul to a certain degree. They got Roman Reigns. Like everyone there on the women's side, they've got Rhea, they've got AJ Lee, they've got Charlotte, they got everyone. I don't think they should be angry. I think they should be angry if the show just plain sucks.
Well, so I listened to ESPN president Burke Magnus on. He was on
Great.
Jimmy Trainer's. He was on Jimmy Trainer's podcast, the SI Media podcast, and he was asked about the WWE relationship, and of course he's saying it's great, and like he did praise like WWE sends their talent to do our shows, like they really care, and I believe all that. I mean, you see the who Nikki was on a show this week, Heyman was on a show, Drew is on a show this morning, CM Punk was on a show. Like they do a lot of the crossover stuff, and WWE has been very good about getting their talent on the ESPN shows. Certainly the week of a pay-per-view, if not even like throughout other weeks that aren't pay-per-view weeks. But he said something very curious when he was like talking about the events, and like he didn't give numbers. And I mentioned this on the show months ago after WrestlePalooza. I was like, they didn't put out a press release touting like the biggest event of all time, the most watched, whatever. As WrestlePalooza is literally going to be the most watched WrestlePalooza of all time because it was the first, unless you want to count the ECW, but it was obviously going to beat that. So it was always good, but they didn't put out like any type of press release for that. I was like, that's odd. And so when Burke is talking about not necessarily the viewership, but just like kind of how the deal is going, is like, we've had WrestlePalooza, and that was the first event of its kind. That was the first WrestlePalooza. And then we had the show in Saudi Arabia, so that was on like an off time for the pay-per-views. It's like we're really interested.
Saudi Arabia anyway, so
what?
Which, by the way, it wasn't Saudi; it was actually Australia. But anyway,
He
said it was Saudi. He said it was international. He said Saudi, but it was Crown Jewel. It was in Australia.
Oh, did he say Saudi?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said Saudi.
Oh, I thought he said Saudi as well, but he could have literally just said international, and I put the wrong words in his mouth, and I apologize for that. I'll get his actual quote. I don't want to misrepresent what he said.
No,
he did say the Middle East. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Australia down in the Middle East.
Yes, yeah. So I was like, yeah, we've had 2 PLE pay-per-views today. One was in the Middle East, so it was an off hour. WrestlePalooza was new. Survivor Series this weekend is going to be a really good measuring stick for how it's going. So he's basically saying the PLE, the Australia pay-per-view was but it's fine. It was on an off hour. WrestlePalooza was but it's fine. It was a new pay-per-view, a new concept.
Not a legacy pay-per-view.
Yeah, but Survivor Series is, this is a big 4 pay-per-view, so it needs to be going well. And I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna
picking the historically least important legacy pay-per-views to really make a point.
In some ways, yeah.
They pushed this so quickly because they wanted to get the app out. They want to get the bugs out. They don't have all the deals set either. So like all the stuff that they were talking about with the ESPN app was like all of these partners that they have and how you're not going to have to shell out $30 if you're connected to literally any of the services that they had promoted as you're already on. So you don't have to pay. Well, it turns out you don't have to pay because the deals aren't done. And as of, 11 or 10:52 on the 28th of November, YouTube TV still isn't partnered with this app, so you don't get it for free. You still have to pay another $30 for this pay-per-view if you want it, or you can use a VPN and get it, through Netflix, which is what I would suggest doing.
YouTube TV is. Didn't they reach an agreement? ESPN and
If
YouTube
they did,
TV.
it's not until next year. That's the other part of it, is because they rushed it so hard. Their whole thing was WrestleMania next year. That was their whole plan, was like this big WrestleMania launch, and maybe they could have launched at Rumble with all the deals in place, but instead, for some reason, everything got pushed to August, which was just absurd. Like, why would you do that? Or September, I guess. They announced the deal in August, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, September 20th, we're going to do it. You're going to what? And they didn't have any deals in place other than the very basic. So yeah, they kind of rushed themselves into this predicament. And now that ESPN's saying, their line is, oh, well, Survivor Series, that'll do it. And it's like, historically, in the last 17 years, the Survivor Series hasn't really meant much. People don't really care that much. So
Yeah,
good
but I
luck.
mean, they're trying. They're definitely trying to make it mean something this year with the people
I mean, I
they've
guess
put
they
on it.
are. They're putting on their all-star war games match, but a lot of people want to see stakes with it. They just don't want to see. They want to see the wrestlers that they
Do
like.
they?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. We're in our
Do
bubble.
they?
I get it. We're in our bubble. We want to see more. Some people just want to see their favorites because they want to see their favorites live up in person. But I think for on a larger scale, people want to see a reason to come and see these people other than, they're there. But
The thing is like WrestlePalooza. They're like, oh, it was a new event. Okay, sure, but you put on Brock Lesnar and John Cena. You put on Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. You put on AJ Lee's first match in over a decade with Punk, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch on there. Like, you had star power on that show. You have very similar star power to that show compared to this show. Like, the additions here are Roman, Logan. Those are kind of the biggest. Nikki, I guess Nikki wasn't on WrestlePalooza, so I don't think she was anyway. So yeah, because Vacker and Io was the women's title match. So those are like the big additions: Roman, Nikki, and Logan. Which, okay, that's still pretty big names out there. But is that any bigger than AJ Lee's first match back? And granted, that one, which is their own doing, mind you, granted that show did go up not against All Out, but on the heels of All Out, and so there's a very real possibility that people were wrestling burned out by that point. But that was they're completely their own fault. I'm not, I'm not saying, I'm not using this as an excuse for be like, oh well, people were watching All Out all day, and maybe that's why. That's why the show wasn't as good. It was their own damn fault. They decided to put the show on that day at that time. So they got no excuse on there. Survivor Series, I don't care what it does. I have the ESPN Unlimited. Is it worth $30? I don't think any of these streaming services are worth more than $5-10, but it is what it is. Do I think it's a good service? Do I get a lot out of it? Yeah, I actually do. I use it all the time for hockey. I watched some basketball on it the other night, and I watch college football on it. Like, I think it's a good app, and I get the wrestling pay-per-views on it. So I put it to use, but I also know a lot of people don't want to pay the $30, and you're not grandfathered in on a lot of the services, and just becomes a pain in the ass. So I understand all of that. It does crash every intermission of a hockey game, which is super annoying. Without fail, every intermission it'll just freeze and crash. I'm like, ugh. At least it's the intermission. It's not happening in the middle of the game. It's just hilarious that it lines up to every intermission to crash.
I assume it's because they're switching away from the arena feed, and whatever it does, that causes some sort of
But no,
corruption.
no. What do you mean switching away from the arena feed? It's not the arena feed. You get the broadcast feed.
You're getting the. That's even dumber.
Why?
Well, no, then it shouldn't be crashing. That's even.
Well, oh yeah, because I watch like the altitude feed
Yeah.
for all the Avs games. Like it's basically the altitude broadcast of the game. Yeah, so
Maybe,
it shouldn't
maybe
crash.
somebody's. I don't know what's going on there. Unless there's somebody there like switching off the YouTube or not YouTube, the ESPN app feed accidentally.
It's just it's so annoying that like literally every intermission it just says crash. Will, I'm with you. $30 if you're only watching the WWE pay per views on it, too much.
Yeah,
At that point I'm going. I'm using Netflix VPN and going with that because it's a much cheaper option. But I use the ESPN app for much more than wrestling, so $30. Again, is it worthwhile? No. ESPN Select was or ESPN Plus. This is ESPN Unlimited. ESPN Plus was like $10, and it got basically the same thing as ESPN Unlimited is. It's the same fucking app. All they added was WWE pay-per-views, but it's like, okay, you couldn't have just done that and kept the same price. Now I do have like the bundle, so it's like Hulu and ESPN and Disney, although Disney and Hulu are the same thing at this point. And it's all $30 for that. So it's effectively ESPN and Hulu for $30, which isn't terrible, I don't think. But it's also like, come on, it's way too much. All this shit's way too much.
it is, and like I can see people in the States, if you have to make the choice between $50 or even if you've got HBO Max, $40 for like an AEW pay per view standalone versus the ESPN Unlimited for $30, and all you're watching is wrestling. I could honestly see anyone picking the AEW pay per view over the other. It is longer. There are fewer commercials. There's more just action.
Oh, you
For
get,
that,
yeah,
like you get more on an AEW pay per view for
way more.
as much as we have our feelings about how long the shows are when you do a one-to-one comparison. No, the answer is absolutely you go with the AEW pay-per-view for those reasons alone. So it's frustrating if you're in the States and like you don't use a VPN and you're being asked to shell out a lot of money for something that you shouldn't. Meanwhile, again, like I'm lucky that all of my broadcast rights for WWE are in Canada, therefore it's on Netflix. And having it on Netflix means I'm paying sub $10 Canadian per month to access all of WWE's program. SmackDown, Raw, NXT, PLEs, NXT PLEs, and then I get to watch Saturday Night's Main Event for free because it's on YouTube anywhere across the world. So, and then I can watch the Saturday Night's Main Event on like 2x speed because it's YouTube. So I can start it late and catch up, and having not missed a thing, I can watch the show faster because it's Saturday Night's Main Event. It's full of, I mean, not anymore so much because they moved away from NBC, but like it was chock full of ads for a long time. So my favorite thing I've
It's
talked
still
about,
going to be chock full of ads, though.
no, the last one was better. The last one they got a lot more
Say so.
straight to the action than they did ads. They did a lot less like breaking, because this is a good example, but nobody has this. So for anyone who uses a sponsor block on their YouTube like I do, sponsor block is like a community what's the word? It's community led. Jesus Christ, what's the word I'm thinking of? Extension on your browser if you use something like Chrome, where you go to all of these videos, and if they have a sponsor, you can actually click to start the sponsor spot and stop it, and then it alerts everyone, hey, this is a sponsor spot. You can skip it, or it automatically skips it for you. So there was one episode of Saturday Night's Main Event that I watched a couple days late. Someone had already gone through with sponsor block and blocked out and there's so much green. Like if you look on the timeline for that YouTube, it was like green, 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 green. Every felt like 4 minutes there was some sponsor block. So it's not like that anymore. It's gotten better, but it's still there. There are still ads. It's just much fewer than it was before when they were on NBC.
Okay. I just assume it's all ads all the time.
That's why you gotta get a VPN and go to Canada. Yeah. Save the money. Save the hassle. Save the money. Anyway, Joel bragging about Canada again. We are a superior nation. It's true. In many ways, shapes, and forms. Not all of them. I don't think ESPN was expecting more from WWE. I think that both sides are just a victim of poor planning. They both had plans to launch next year, and instead they saw an opportunity to start it early, and they said, sure, let's go for it. We'll make money off of it, but they're not making the money that they thought they were going to make because the deals aren't done. That's it. When the deal starts, I think WrestleMania and even the Rumble, those will be the real starters for ESPN looking at the deal and looking at the numbers and seeing if the deal was actually worth it for them. Because I'm sure WWE sold them as much as they could on the idea, but whether or not ESPN viewership is something that is positively affected, that's going to be the big conversation starter for those two.
I think ESPN probably was expecting more, because I think all of these companies are expecting more. All these platforms. I mean, you look at the Netflix deal, you look at the USA deal, you look at the Peacock deal, and all this stuff, and like you're expecting a good viewership and a consistent viewership, and they get a relatively consistent viewership, but it also drops year to year and month to month. I think there's a reason why Saturday Night's Main Event just got completely moved off of NBC instead of at least keeping that part of the deal, even though they did the Peacock deal, they finished that up early. Netflix, I mean, from the first show to now, like half the audience is gone. That spiked up this last show because it was Cena's last Raw, but what are the numbers going to be next week with a not John Cena show? Probably back to the same old 2.4, 2.5 that they've been doing. SmackDown's at about a 1.2 every single week, and it dropped under 1 million the other week. Granted, that I think that one was up against the World Series, but like real sports are always going to take precedent over all of this stuff. But when they sign these deals, they're expecting probably a stronger audience than WWE actually delivers, honestly. Because I just don't know. I don't know fully, how invested WWE fans are into like paying for all of this stuff. It feels like so much of the WWE audience is fine with watching and living this stuff through like online clips and everything, because they do huge numbers on like YouTube and socials and everything. It feels like a good majority of the audience is like, I'll just wait the 5 seconds until the show goes up on socials. And like, that's fine, They tout those numbers as well. But it does feel like the Netflix numbers, the USA numbers, the CW numbers are down year over year. Everything, like they should be expecting more, because they deliver these big numbers to start and they tout those numbers, certainly. But then 2 months later, that audience is cut by 25% and it doesn't really return unless it's a one big show to return to.
And so watch it on Netflix. It's cheaper. That's really all it means. It's all you need to do. And then get AEW on Triller Plus for $5 if you go to Romania and sign up there. See? Saving you money.
A couple things of how much time they have left on the deal with Peacock. It was supposed to be up the beginning of next year. And that's when they signed the ESPN deal, because the Peacock deal was supposed to end before WrestleMania next year. And they ended it early for whatever reason you want to believe, because there's
all of our dates.
Yes, there's reasons they say, and then there's other theories out there. But yeah, it was supposed to end, I think, February, March of next year.
There's plenty more over on Fightful Overbooked. Click that subscribe button, tap that bell, get your notifications. And while you're at it, like the videos, interact with them, say some stuff. We want to hear from you. While you're at it, join us every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, live for In the Weeds. You might like it.